So, very excited that everyone has come here today. There's going to be a lot of things for us to talk about. The class is for an hour, but it might go a little bit longer, and I have the ability to extend the class a little bit too. But roughly about an hour it should be, the class today. So, what I'm going to do now is just give you a little introduction to myself, okay? Because some of you know me, some of you don't know me before. A lot of people are already in my community, my JDA English community. So here is a little bit of information about myself. I've been teaching online for 7 years now, and I started my website, JDA English, back in 2009. Okay, so the website I have now, I started in 2009. I also have a YouTube channel, a podcast, which is going to come very, very soon. And I also teach English teachers too. So I help English teachers teach online. Now you can probably notice from my accent that I'm originally from the UK. But now I live in a city called Asheville. And this is in North Carolina in USA. See from the picture, this is the downtown area of Asheville. Beautiful city, quite small, but lots and lots of tourists come here. And it's in the mountains, great community spirit, a great community with lots of people who just like to do things together. And I really, really enjoy living here. So it's a fantastic place to be. And in the past, I also lived in Spain for a couple of years. So I taught English in Bilbao, in the north of Spain, and also in Valencia. Had a wonderful time there. Anyone from Spain? Just say, hello, I'm from Spain, and tell me, Vicente is from Valencia. Fantastic. Well, yes, we'll talk more about that later. Beautiful city. Had a fantastic time there. I live with my wife, Kate, my son, Thomas, and I also have 3 dogs. Now, I always say this in every class that I give. It maybe gets a little bit noisy in the background. The postman comes around 1:30, the dogs start barking and barking and barking. My wife is out with my son at the moment. They've gone for lunch with a few friends, and they'll come back soon. Sometimes my wife forgets I'm in a lesson and she'll come through the door, as I know Ildar is here and he's seen my wife in lessons before. But if that happens, just ignore it. And just to say finally, I'm a full-time English teacher, and I specifically help intermediate speakers reach an advanced level. Okay, so that's what I help people do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, firstly, what I want us to do is to focus, okay? Close down Facebook. Turn off your mobile phones or put them on silent. Stop twittering, move away from emails, and just focus on this presentation, okay? And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to introduce a really good opportunity for you, okay? But now, take a few breaths, deep breaths. Okay, smile, because I have some good news. And the good news is this: anyone can become fluent in English, okay? Anyone can become fluent in English. Everyone here today can reach this goal. The reason I say this is because I've seen it happen so many times before. People of different ages, nationalities, education levels, different jobs, and different levels of English too become fluent. And you can do this too, okay? But as we'll see, it's not possible to do this through traditional learning methods. So what we're going to look at is different ways that you can get to this level, and we'll talk about why it's not possible to do this through the traditional learning methods. So, for now, let's just imagine, okay? Imagine, what would it be like to be fluent in English? Okay? How would it change your career? What would it mean to you personally? And just take a moment to think about this, and if it would be a big change for you. Would it make a big difference to your life? And what I do is I have a look at these responses and think about why you want to do English, why you want to learn English to a high level. And here are some of the responses that you gave to what would it be like to be fluent and why you want to learn English. Now, the first one is, a lot of people talked about jobs, careers, and opportunities that it will give you. And this is because, as you know, English is the international language of business. And it's really important for a lot of you to have a high level in this case. And I guess that's just the way it is in the world. So for a lot of you, English is really important for your future. Okay. Secondly, travel. Okay. English is the international language of travel. And many people said they want to know English to be able to speak to other people. Now, I've been traveling a lot, and someone asked me before if I have been to Argentina. And yes, I spent 2 months in Argentina and about 9 months total in South America in general. And no matter where you go in the world, English is the most common language, the most common traveling language, with guides, with the hotels, the hostels, when you're just talking to people in general. So that's another important thing for a lot of you. The third reason was culture, okay? And people responded saying that they love American, British, Canadian, Australian, and other English-speaking countries' culture. And English is a really good way to learn more about these cultures. Because knowing English means that you can listen to the new music, understand big American films, watch British television, and also read interesting books. So knowing English opens up a whole new world to you in this sense too. Okay? And finally, a lot of people said that they just love the language, that they want to learn new words and to be able to use it properly. Okay? So these were the main reasons that I received, and I imagine that a lot of you want to learn English for a combination of these reasons, okay? For your job, for your travel, for the culture, and also because you love the language too. But whatever your reason, it's important to remind yourself. It gives you that motivation, okay? And a lot of the times we need motivation to get into habits. We'll talk about this later. We need to remind ourselves why we are doing what we're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick sip of water, but before I do, okay, quick question in the chat box. Are you excited about getting to an advanced level? Does this excite you? Do you feel really motivated and confident about this? Just a quick yes in the chat box if you do. Great. So yeah, there's a lot of people saying yes, and there are some interesting answers also. But yeah, everyone is here for that reason. I didn't expect anyone to say no, because you're all here because you want to reach this advanced level. Okay, so let's have a little look now what's going to be coming up next, okay? What's going to be coming up in this presentation. So we're going to look at some common English learning mistakes. And these are mistakes that English learners make, okay? Not just about the language, but about what they do to learn English. And I see English learners making these mistakes all the time. And if you want to progress, you should stop making them. Then I'm going to give you an introduction to the methods for learning vocabulary, internalizing grammar, and also improving your speaking. And this will be the majority of the presentation. And then finally at the end, I'm going to give an introduction to my new course, my new premium course, which is called How to Become Fluent in English. And many of you already know about this course, and I've received a lot of questions about it. So I'm going to give you an introduction to it, let you know exactly what it's about, and then show you what it's like behind the scenes and what you're going to be doing. But first, Okay, and talk about the intermediate barrier. So the intermediate barrier. Most of you here are intermediate speakers. And in the survey, I asked you what your level was. And it said that 75% of you, okay, or I think 75-85% of you are either pre-intermediate or intermediate speakers. So the majority of you here are below the intermediate level or at the intermediate level. And there seems to be a lot of frustration about moving away from this level and becoming advanced, from leaving the intermediate level and becoming advanced. Okay? And I know this because the vast majority of you said in the survey that you aren't happy with your progress that you've made in the past year. Something about the intermediate level is it's harder, more difficult to go from an intermediate level to advanced than from a beginner to intermediate. So it's more difficult to reach that advanced level. But the main reason for this is the following. Okay? You won't reach an advanced level if you use traditional learning methods. You won't reach this advanced level if you continue using traditional learning methods. And most of you are still using those methods. And these include going to a language school once a week, doing grammar exercises, and reading word lists. Okay? Just 3 examples of the traditional learning methods. Now these can help, but we need to do more than that. We need to do things that actually make a difference to our learning. Okay, so we need to do more than just taking 1 lesson a week, doing some grammar exercises, maybe reading an article, and then trying to learn vocabulary. Okay, so we need to do more than that. We'll talk about what we need to do a little bit later. So you're going to learn about some of the things to avoid, and also what you should be doing to reach a high level in the next year or so. So I have a quick question. Are you ready, yes or no, to make the changes needed to reach a high level? Okay? Are you ready to make changes to your learning? Is it something that you want to do? Great. Because I do feel a lot of you are saying yes here, because I do feel a lot of you want to make these changes but don't know exactly what you should be doing, and also sometimes need some motivation and need some support on a daily basis to keep things going. But it's great that a lot of you you want to move on to this next level. You want to make these changes. So let's have a look at the first learning mistake now. Okay? So learning mistake number 1 is this: not getting enough input. And this is connected with immersing yourself in English, to be constantly listening and watching and reading in English. In the survey, 85% of you got less than 4 hours of input per week. Okay, so 85% of you got less than 4 hours of input per week. Now, to reach a high level, you need to be watching and reading and listening to more English, to be getting this input. So you can see here that there are 3 major ways that we can get the input. And these are the listening that we talked about, reading English, and then a lot of people's favourite, watching television and watching movies, all in English, okay? Now, a lot of you may say, I'm too busy to do this. I don't have time to listen. I don't have time to read. I don't have time to watch television. What's interesting is I have worked with hundreds of students in the past, and I've heard this many times. I don't have time. I'm too busy, I don't have time. But we always find ways. We always find a strategy to get more input, and also to make it fun and to make it effortless at the same time. So why is input so important? The simple way to say it is, to reach a high level, you need to get lots of input. Okay? So to reach this high level, you need to do more listening, reading, and watching. And good input is needed to be able to get used to the language, to become familiar with it. Okay? So we need this input to to become familiar with English, with the vocabulary and the grammar, the pronunciation, and everything that's involved in English. And this is because when we get input, when we listen and watch and read things, we store information. Now this can happen consciously when we're aware about it, or it can also happen subconsciously. And a lot of the words we use are learned subconsciously. We learn without knowing that we're learning. Okay. And this information that we store is used to understand what others are saying. When we have conversations, we can understand what others are saying because we've had enough input. But also, we can then use it ourselves during conversation. So this is why input is so important to reach that high level of English. Now, I always say this, listen to things, watch things and read things that interest you. Don't waste your time reading things you feel you have to. It's much better to get the input from understandable, interesting and fun things. And this is very, very specific to you. Okay, so for example, you might like football, for example. Now, if you like football, then read and watch and listen to football. But if you like other things, then read and watch those things as well. So always find things that are interesting to you. Okay. Now, I'll try and answer some questions at the end. So yes, we'll move on, and later we'll see why input is important for vocabulary, for grammar, for speaking, and also why you should concentrate on sentences. So, I have some more good news. Everyone likes good news, and this is a really important good news. And it's this. It's easy to get input these days. Because in the past, you had to go to language schools, buy books and buy CDs to get the input. And there's a huge change now because now there are so many online resources. And I know this is probably obvious. You may be thinking, yes, of course, everyone knows this. But this is something a lot of people haven't adapted to. Okay? They haven't taken advantage of this situation. Because now we can get the majority of our input from free resources online, like podcasts. Okay? Podcasts for English learners and general podcasts. From YouTube, we can get them from learning blogs, English blogs like my website, or lots of teacher websites, or just general blogs from things that you're interested in, like technology or politics. Google.com as well, TV shows that we can watch online, audiobooks. The list of resources go on and on. Now, in my premium course, I'll give you the best resources that you need to get the input, talk about where you can find this input, and show you how even busy people can dramatically increase the amount they read and listen to, and also talk about the type of input you should be getting. But for now, I just have another poll for you all, and this will help you think about the input and how easy it is to get. So, what language is your computer in? Okay, what language is your computer in? So, let's have a little look at this poll. Okay, so the results are still coming in. We've had 25 votes, 26, 27. Keep voting. A lot of people are writing it in the chat box too. Okay, so I'm going to share the results now. So you can see here, great, 60% of you have your device in English, okay? And 20% of you have it in your native language, and 8% of you have it in a different language. And this is just a very simple way of knowing how we can easily get English input without having to work hard for it. Because when we have it in our device, it's a small change, okay, but it brings big results. So we can think about small changes. and making these small changes to ensure that we get enough input. And I say here, like changing the language on your devices can bring big results. It can give you hours and hours of input per week. So it's great that a lot of you are doing this, and there are so many different ways that you can do this to get more and more input. So that's input for now. Let's move on to mistake number 2. Now, mistake number 2 is this: not learning vocabulary and phrases in context. Okay? Not learning vocabulary and phrases in context. And this means that you should avoid word lists and idiom lists, word-for-word translations, for example, and verb tables. Now, I see a lot of students memorizing single words and idioms, and a lot of the time they'll take words in their own language or in English, translate single words, verbs and nouns, prepositions, and try to memorize them and try to remember them. Okay, so this is what you should try to avoid. Avoid word and idiom lists. Avoid word-for-word translations and also verb tables, okay? And it's okay at best sometimes to learn nouns if they're associated with a picture. But always learn new words and phrases in context. It's really, really important to do. What I say is start with the context. Start with an article or a video, a podcast, a TV show, a conversation, and learn the words you don't know. Okay? So don't learn the words out of context, because learning single words won't give you the ability to be able to use them. And it only leads to confusion and hesitation when speaking. And learning in a rich context is what you need to do. Now, we'll look at some examples later, but you might be thinking now, what type of context? Okay, what does this context thing mean? And I like to explain it in 2 ways. Okay, so learn words in the context of a collocation or sentence and the context of a situation. So we need to have the context of a sentence for the word to make sense and know how to use it, and also the context of the situation to know how and when to use this type of phrase or this type of vocabulary term. So this is the type of context that we should be using. And the richer the context, the better. And you'll see why this is so important later with the example and when I talk about the sentence method. But first, we're just going to have a quick talk about this. And this is word-for-word translations. And this is the reason for most English grammar mistakes or English sentence mistakes I see. And this is when learners directly translate phrases, sentences and tenses into English from their own language. Now here are some examples that I see. Very, very common English mistake, sorry. This is an example of directly translating prepositions. I have been in London is incorrect. It's I have been to London. And this is because learners are directly translating prepositions from their own language into English. And this is why we need to start with the English and know exactly what the right preposition is, the sentence structure, and everything else that makes it correct. The second example is this. I am in London for years. Okay? Something else I see all the time. All my students make similar mistakes to this. And this is an example of the tense. Okay? I have been in London for 4 years. So we're not using the present simple, but we're using the present perfect. And the final example of a mistake is this. I made my homework. And this is where we should be saying I did my homework. Okay? I did my homework. And as Virginia just said, some languages do not use the perfect tense. And that is why we start with the English. And that's why we learn from the context of conversations and articles, because then you realize when we use the perfect tense. But if you think about it in your own language and try to translate it, the tense, into English, then it does cause lots of problems. But this last example is an example of a collocation. Okay? And just to note, collocations are two or more words that are commonly used together. And I'll just give some more examples in the chat box. Catch a bus, okay? Save money, go shopping. If you can give me more examples, that'd be great. Make a loss, for example. So, yeah, and here we have another example from, if I pronounce it correctly, Heliomar. So in Portuguese, make and have the same meaning. And this is the collocation. So when you have make and have, or a lot of languages have make and do as the same meaning, then it causes problems. So that's why we can't directly translate from your own language into English. There are so many more examples, but all of these are because of word-for-word translations. So what I say, avoid Google Translate, okay? A lot of the times if you want to speak correctly and use the correct words, Google Translate is not going to help you. Okay, so we're going to have to move on to the next slide now, and we're going to go on to learning mistake number 3. And this is the most, well, the mistake that you're probably going to be most happy about, okay? And it's this: spending too much time on grammar rules and exercises, okay? Spending too much time on grammar rules and exercises. Now, this is good news, I hope, because I'm telling you that you don't need to spend a lot of time learning the rules and doing exercises, okay? I'm telling you, you don't need to get another grammar book or find another website with grammar exercises. And I also strongly recommend that you don't try to memorize rules. Now, why am I saying this? And this is very important, and Vicente just talks a little bit about this here, and this is the reason why. Grammar needs to be internalized. It needs to feel right. We don't want to think about grammar. We don't want to think about all the different exceptions and rules. We want to feel it. It needs to come out naturally, okay? In a natural way, exactly. And we can't do that with just grammar rules and exercises. So we can talk about like how we can internalize grammar, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but to speak well, to speak freely, and a lot of you think about, I want to speak English, I want to speak freely. We want to reach this point where you can use grammar correctly without thinking. Okay, so we're going to talk about how we can internalize grammar in a second, but I just want to say again, rules and exercises will help you understand the grammar, but they won't help you use it freely. So we need to do something different, okay? We need to do things that will actually help us get to this level, to reach this level where everything feels natural. So the question is, how do we internalize grammar? And now, I say there are two ways to do this, two main ways to do this. And the first one is this: massive input and practice, okay? So the practice is the output, because when we get lots of input and we practice this and use it correctly, you recognize patterns, you recognize the rules of grammar, and it starts to feel right, okay? It starts to get to that stage where you just automatically say this. Your brain starts to understand the grammar rules, and it uses them correctly without having to think about them. And it does this automatically. That's the amazing thing about it. When you get enough input, it can do this automatically. And you subconsciously learn what is right in English. So this is the stage you want to reach. And this is the first way we can internalize grammar. But there's also a second way. And this is through the sentence method. Okay? And just to give a little bit of a summary, we learned that we need to learn new words in the context of a sentence. Okay, and also that we should avoid learning new words on their own. Now I've just said that we have to internalize grammar so it feels right. And this method will do both of those things for you. Now, to help me explain, I've got an example. I'm going to use the word excited as an example. Quick yes or no. Do you know what excited means in English? Don't have to give an example or a translation, just a quick yes or no. Okay? So, as I thought most of you know what this means. Good. Good, good, good. Yep. And I'm using this because most of you will know what it means. But just imagine for a moment that just imagine for a moment that you don't know what this means, but you decide to get the definition. Being in a state of excitement, emotionally aroused, stirred. So this gives you an idea of the meaning of the word, okay? But if you just learn the definition, and a lot of the times when you just learn the translation, it doesn't mean much to you, okay? And you wouldn't be able to use it when speaking or writing. But if you learn it through the context of a conversation, okay, using the whole sentence, for example, I'm so excited about going to the party. I'm so excited about going to the party. When we learn it this way, you understand how to use it and its deeper meaning. The intonation shows that it's a happy emotion, and you notice the energy and excitement in my voice. And this is the context we're looking for. And also, we learn lots of different things as well about this word. For example, we can learn that we use so. Okay, I'm going to start typing a little bit. So excited instead of very. And in this case, in an informal situation. We also learn that we use a preposition about with excited. Okay, and then finally, you can see that we use the gerund going after we use the word about. Now, you can learn the rules and the sentence. You can learn the rules of this sentence and also the definition. But as I said, this won't help you when you're speaking or using English in different ways. So the other way is to get lots of input and to read and write and get lots of similar sentences and repeat these sentences. Because after seeing this and similar sentences again and again, your brain will be able to use these constructions in a flexible way. It will take parts of this sentence and use them differently. And we want to reach the stage where we can be very flexible with this. Now, let's look at some more examples. I've been excited about going to this party for a long time. I've been excited about going to this party for a long time. So this example shows how we can use this same construction but in the present perfect. We're still using this part of the sentence, excited about going to the party, okay, but we're using the to be part in a different tense, and we're also adding a time expression for a long time at the end of the sentence, okay. And here's another example of the flexibility. I'm so excited about seeing my friends later. Okay. Now here we're substituting the verb go for the verb see. And you'll notice that we're still using the gerund, the ing, excited about going, excited about seeing. Okay, excited about being, excited about playing, excited about learning, excited about teaching. Always the ing. Okay. So you can see when we use this excited about, then we also have the plus, the gerund, the ing. Now, getting lots of this input through sentences and also using them in a very specific way, these patterns will become familiar and natural to you. You'll be able to use English in this flexible way without having to think about these rules, but only if you get enough input, you use these sentences, and then also you use the sentence method. So here's just a little overview about this. When you learn through sentences that come from a rich context, you learn how to use a new vocabulary and when to use it. Okay? In addition, you internalize the grammar so that it feels natural when speaking and writing. And this method can be used in combination with getting lots and lots of input. Okay? So it can be used in a combination with the input. And this combination is really, really powerful. Okay? So just to note, I'll answer questions at the end again. So if you save your questions at the end, I'll answer these at the end of the class. So that's the overview of the sentence method. But now we have a question to answer. Should you memorize sentences? Okay, so I'm going to answer this question, but the question is, should you memorize sentences? Because we know that sentences can be used to help us internalize grammar and learn new words and phrases, like excited. Now, the answer to this is not in a traditional way, no. Okay, so we don't want to memorize sentences in a traditional way, because forcing yourself to memorize is too rigid, it's boring, and it doesn't allow you to use it freely. It doesn't allow you to be flexible. Instead, we should use spaced repetition software. Okay, I'll type it in here, spaced repetition software. This is also known as SRS, SRS. We'll talk about spaced repetition software in a minute. Okay, but first, here is the method. Here is the sentence method. This is what you can do. You collect sentences that are relevant to you. Sentences that come from a rich context, from things that you're interested in, and also relevant to your learning and your level. You then enter these sentences into spaced repetition software, and then you follow the system. Now, the system will do the hard work for you. You just have to use the software. And I've used this method myself. Lots of my students have used it. Many language learners and polyglots use it too. And it's such a powerful method. So the step one is quite simple. Collect the sentences that are relevant to you. But let's look at step two now. And this is the spaced repetition software. So what is spaced repetition software? Well, it's this. It's free software that uses digital flashcards so that you can remember new vocabulary and internalize grammar. Okay? So it's free software. We're using digital flashcards, and it helps you remember and use new vocabulary and internalize grammar. Now, the system knows when you need to see a sentence so that you can remember it without trying to memorize it, without making the effort to memorize it. Because it works like this. To remember something properly and to memorize grammar, we have to see the sentence again and again, and similar sentences again and again. But I'm going to put this in the chat, we don't have to see a sentence 10 times a day. Okay? So it's not necessary to see it 10 times a day, because the more we see a sentence, the longer we can wait to see it again. So the software shows you the sentence, for example, 3 times the first day, then once the next day, then 2 days, 4 days, 8 days, and we're going into exponential numbers here, 16, 32, 64, etc. And this means it enters your long-term memory, and it means that you can use it easily during speech. Okay. Now, think about how many words you've learned and then forgotten. Okay. Think about how many times you've learned a new word, you've looked at the definition and you've forgotten it. I know this happens all the time to English learners, and this software will help you with that. It will help you stay fresh in your mind. Perfect. Thank you, Enzo. Fantastic. The other thing is, think about how much time you spent reading grammar rules and doing exercises, but still can't use the right tense or make mistakes with prepositions. Now, this method will help you remember this vocabulary, internalize grammar, and also allow you to use a language in a flexible way when speaking. It's an amazing method. And just to give you a little bit of a preview of this, okay, this image, it shows us what the software looks like. Now, there are certain things you should do when you see a sentence, and also things that you should do to make it fun and memorable. And that's what I'll explain in depth in my premium course. We'll talk about that later on. Okay, so just to give an overview of this sentence method, it's this. Using the software for 10 to 20 minutes a day, we can internalize thousands of sentences in a year and be able to use a language in a flexible way, okay? By doing this, we learn thousands of new words and phrases, and we can use grammar without thinking. So it's such a strong method to use. And it's going to dramatically improve your English, both your comprehension to understand and also your speaking. Okay. So you can answer the questions later on, but speaking, this is the next stage, and we're going to talk about this now and how to improve your speaking. So have a quick sip of water. Okay. Just a quick question in the chat. What is everyone drinking now? What are you drinking right now? I love drinking water and tea during lessons, and mainly it's green tea. Green tea, Ildar, thank you. Beer, fantastic. Coffee, nothing. Nothing. I'm not drinking anything. Water, nothing. Water, nothing. Nothing. Soup. Not drinking, watching. That's great. Nothing. A lot of you are drinking nothing. Usually when I take a lesson online, I like to get a cup of tea. Usually a cup of tea and a glass of water, and it makes me feel really, really good during the lesson. We're good. So, speaking. Everyone wants to improve their speaking. An important part of learning English and reaching that high level. So, to reach a high level, again, just a little bit of repetition. Input will improve your speaking, okay? So to speak well, we have to know lots of English. You can't speak well if you don't have the right type of English in your brain. And as we've seen, we can improve our English through input and the sentence method. So firstly, input is really important to be able to speak fluently. Now, also, to be able to speak well, you need to be able to say the English sounds. So our mouths have to produce the correct English sounds. I'm talking about pronunciation here. And our mouths have muscles. Just like any other muscle in our body, our mouths have muscles too. And not enough learners spend time practicing and improving their pronunciation. Okay? And this is such an important area because once you practice and improve your pronunciation, you're able to speak freely. You can't speak freely if you don't improve your pronunciation. So this is what you need to do. 3 things. Learn how to say the sounds. Okay? So firstly we need to learn how to say the sounds. And this takes time because your mouth is used to, familiar with, saying sounds in your language, okay? So your mouth, your muscles are used to saying sounds in your language. I play a lot of football, okay, a lot of soccer. So my legs, my muscles are used to playing soccer. But when I go cycling, it's completely different. My legs are so sore, I don't have the right muscles. And just as you see different builds, for example, a wrestler is big and strong, okay, but a swimmer has no body fat, and their muscles are different. It's the same with your mouth. Your mouth muscles are different because of your native language. So firstly, we need to learn how to say the sounds. We need to know what to do with our tongue. We need to know what to do with our lips, with our mouth in general, with our teeth. So that's the first thing we need to do. Now, quick yes or no, who got my book, 5 Keys to Becoming Fluent in English? Okay. Who got my book? Who has read that book? Okay, just quick yes or no. A lot of people saying yes, great. Okay, I'm going to put a link at the end of the lesson and send you a link to this book, but it talks about a software that you can use to learn the English sounds. So I'll put that link in later. Now, once you know it, once you learn how to say them, you need to get feedback. And the best way to get feedback, to get information, is to have someone correct you, have someone practice with you, okay? And they should give you specific advice about this and what you should do with your mouth. And then finally, practice, okay? This is one thing that we have to do is practice. Just like I practice playing football, my muscles adapt, we need to practice the sounds. So then your mouth can just speak freely, okay? So then it comes out naturally. And the best way to do this is through listening and repeat, okay? So you'll listen to something and you repeat to the sounds. And I talk about this method in the course that we're going to talk about later. The other thing to improve your speaking is just to do this, okay? Practice your speaking in general. And there are a couple of ways we can do this, and these ways are specific practice, okay? Focused learning, specific practice, listening and repeating, for example. Another way to do this is speaking with a teacher. So this teacher can correct you. It can correct your pronunciation, your grammar, vocabulary, sentence structure. And having this feedback will help you really improve. And then also natural practice, okay? And I always say this, as you progress, as you go up into, going this way, the intermediate level to advanced, you need to get more and more natural practice, okay? And we're going to talk about in the course how you can go into depth and find native speakers to practice with, okay? Now, do you get nervous when speaking English, okay? Just a quick yes or no in the chat box, and while you're doing that, I'm going to extend the time of this class. Great to see these answers coming in. But one second, I'm going to extend this session. Okay, so the session has been extended, so we're going to do more than an hour. But yeah, just watching these results, everyone says yes. What's really interesting is I asked this question in the survey, and only 12%, okay, one second, see if I can get this chat up, 12% said no. So the majority of you do get nervous when speaking English. And what's really interesting in this sense is this can really stop you from progressing. So if you are nervous when speaking English, then it's important to overcome this, okay? Now, a lot of people get nervous speaking anyway, in their own native language. Usually this is because people are speaking in front of other people, okay? So that's one thing to think about. If you get nervous speaking in your own language, then you're going to get nervous speaking in English. But a way to overcome this is this. Find somebody who you feel comfortable with. Find one person who you feel completely confident speaking in English with this person, so that you're not getting nervous, so that you're not worried about making mistakes, that you're not worried about saying something wrong, and practice as much as you can with this one person. Your confidence will build and build and build. The other thing is, know this, native English speakers are used to hearing people with foreign accents. They're used to listening and talking with people who don't have English as their native language. For example, I'm very, very used to speaking with people who don't have English as their native language, it's their second language. But everyone in the UK, everyone in America, even Australia as well, they are used to speaking with people who make mistakes, who have different pronunciation, who aren't perfect. So know that people don't think it's strange when they listen to you speak. And then the other thing is, think about doing things and just getting started. Just start speaking with someone, because sometimes, and I've seen this happen, once English learners start speaking with someone, then they become a lot more confident, and then they think, that wasn't a problem. They didn't laugh at me, or they didn't shout at me for not saying the right word. So just try and get started and speak now, and you never know, it might just feel completely normal after a while. So here is a small conclusion of what we have discussed so far. And it's this: anyone can reach a high level of English, okay? So everyone can get to this high level and can get there in the near future, which is really important. We can reach this level in the near future. But we need to make changes. We can't continue doing what we're doing if you're not improving. You need to make using those methods, some of those changes in this class, and you'll hear more about those changes in a couple of slides. English is so important for many reasons, and having a high level of English will make a massive difference to your life. And the last thing is this: be responsible for your learning. It's up to you to make progress, okay? You have to take responsibility for your learning. Do the things that are going to make a difference, and take action today to ensure that you reach the level you want to reach. Okay, so I'm just going to take one more sip of water, which is speaking for an hour makes you very thirsty. But now I'm going to introduce an amazing opportunity for you all. Okay, so are you ready for this opportunity? Are you ready for this great thing that's going to come? A quick yes in the chat box. Great. Okay. So everyone's still here. Everyone's still excited. Fantastic. This is this. Tomorrow, Wednesday, a course. There's this course that I have, and it's going to show you exactly what you need to do to reach fluency. And you can see here, this course is called How to Become Fluent in English, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you. It's going to be on WizIQ, on this platform, and it's going to give you the methods, the mentality, the advice, the resources, and everything you need to leave that intermediate level behind and become an advanced speaker in the near future. And it's going to show you how you can do this by using mainly free resources and by doing this all on your own. Okay, so it's all about how you can take responsibility for your learning and implement the methods and the habits that are going to help you get to that advanced level. So it actually starts tomorrow and is at the same time as this lesson today. And I've taken this course before. I love this course. And to use something that we learned before, I'm so excited about it tomorrow. So here are some of the highlights. Here are some of the things that you will learn in the course. Okay, so you're going to learn. It's going to be a total of 5 live lessons. And they're going to cover the changes you need to make to reach fluency. So you will learn and put into practice and make the changes that you need to make to your learning so that you can reach fluency. In the survey, a lot of you said you weren't happy with your progress, so these changes do need to be made. And I'll explain exactly what you need to do on a daily basis, okay, to reach a high level, and also what you should avoid doing. And the changes that I talk about will help you reach an advanced level within the next 12 months. Okay, so the next thing is how to immerse yourself in English wherever you live. So this is lesson number 2, and I can't explain how important this is. It will show you exactly how you can get the input you need by immersing yourself in your language, in English, and how you can do this even if you're really busy. So I collected the best resources, advice and materials so that you're surrounded by English. Then also in the course we'll look at the sentence method. There's going to be a lot of information on the sentence method. This includes where to get sentences from, how to add audio and pictures to the sentences, how many sentences you should learn a day. And it's going to be a video and a step-by-step guide on how to use this software. So if you really want to know about the sentence method, then this course is going to be exactly right for you. We'll also look at the television method, and this will show you how you can learn English through television and the things you need to do when watching. We'll also introduce the best methods that will help you improve your speaking, and also set you challenges and tasks so that you can get into the habit of doing what you need to do. And this is a big part of becoming fluent. We'll also talk about how to meet native speakers, and being able to practice with native or proficient speakers is so important to reach that high level. And I'll show you exactly how you can meet native speakers both online and offline so that you can talk often with natives. We'll talk about the methods you need to do to improve your pronunciation, all about the sounds of English, linking words, relaxed pronunciation and intonation. And also we'll talk about what you should focus on and what you shouldn't focus on. We'll introduce methods that you can use and tools that you can use so that you're doing the things that you have to do, that you need to do to reach that high level. And finally, we'll talk about how to get into the habits of learning English, okay? And this is how to learn English without having to force yourself and take that energy to do it. So there's going to be lots of advice about how to get into the habit of learning English, okay? So, in the course, there will be 5 live lessons that will be recorded. Now, George said he can't make it tomorrow because he's working. But if you can't make the time of the course, not a problem, because the lessons are recorded and you can watch them any time, okay? So you can watch them at any time you want to watch them. There's going to be PDF downloads and videos for each lesson. And this includes summaries for easy reference. So there will be a summary of the lesson so you can read on one page exactly what the lesson involves. There's also going to be step-by-step guides for the methods. So all the methods I introduce will have their own guides and videos. So that means that you can really understand how to use the methods. And finally, there's also a forum. Okay, so the forum where you can ask me questions about anything. You can ask me questions about the lessons or learning English in general. And in the last course, the forum was very active and a lot of people learned a lot from this. Now, as I said, I've done this course before. And this is what other people have said. Ildar, who's here today, said, I have enjoyed taking this great course. Jack is a really great teacher. Maria says, each class is a well of wisdom. Every time I learn something new. Remick from Austria said, great lessons and a great teacher. And then Samuel, who's originally from the UAE but now lives in the UK, says, what I've learned in 1 month would have taken a lifetime to learn elsewhere. So who's this course for? It's perfect if you have a pre, a mid, or a post-intermediate level. You want to reach an advanced level in the next 12 months. So you don't want to have 10 years, 20 years. You want to reach that advanced level soon. And if you do, then this course is perfect for you. And also, it's perfect for anyone who lives in an English-speaking country or a non-English speaking country too. And also, really important, if you want to save money on things that don't work, okay, then this course is for you. Because it's not only going to show you how to get to the high level, but it's going to give you very specific advice on what's important to learn, what courses are good for you. And what's really interesting is 95% of what I recommend that you use is free. And so it's going to teach you how you can save money. And it's also going to teach you how you can save time as well. So come and join us. This course offers amazing value and lifetime access. So it's just over $60 for the full course with the discount. And you have access to the course for life. So as I said, all the lessons are recorded. If you miss a lesson, you can watch it later. So now is the time to become fluent. So stop thinking about fluency or an advanced level as some distant dream, something in 10 years or 20 years. Take the step now, take action now to ensure that you know exactly what to do to reach the level you want to have. Don't wait until some future date that may never come. And don't waste your time doing things that don't make a difference, okay, to your learning. This course will show you what you need to do to make incredible progress and for you to attain your dream of being able to speak freely in English in the near future. Okay, so this is what Alexandra said about my course. She said, Jack is an extraordinary teacher and mentor, and I highly recommend his course. With his constant energy and enthusiasm, he makes us feel confident about reaching fluency in English. Thank you, Jack. Studying with you has been a fantastic and unforgettable experience. So, I have the link to the course. I'm going to put it into the chat box. Now, and I also have a discount code for you. So this is the link for the course, and the discount code is this, JackWeb10. So to save 10% on the course, you can use this discount code, okay? And it's an amazing opportunity for you. So I can't wait to see you inside the course, and thank you so much for watching, okay? It's been just such a great opportunity, and I really hope you've learned a lot from this. So, thank you very much, and I'll speak to you next time.